Story 1. The last room on the 4th floor. I used to think ghost stories in dormitories were just pranks to scare freshmen. Until that rainy season, when I moved into room 407, the last room on the 4th floor of the old building behind the school. That dormitory was not meant for new students. It was a building constructed more than 20 years ago. Its yellow walls faded into a dirty gray. The hallway was long and narrow, and the fluorescent lights constantly flickered as if they were about to die. During the day, the place already felt cold. At night, it looked like a dark throat stretching endlessly, swallowing the sound of every footstep that passed through. I got the room on a heavy rainy afternoon. The manager handed me the key and quickly warned me, "If you stay on the 4th floor, don't wander around the hallway at night, and if you hear someone calling you, don't answer." I thought she was joking, so I laughed. But she did not laugh back. Room 407 was at the end of the corridor, next to an emergency staircase that had been locked for years. The window overlooked a backyard filled with weeds. Inside the room were 2 bunk beds, but I was alone. The bed beside mine was empty, covered with an old sheet that smelled damp and moldy. On the wall, next to the light switch, there was a long scratch mark, as if someone had clawed at it with their fingernails. The first night was fairly normal. Around 1 in the morning, I woke up because of the rain hitting the window. The room was pitch black except for the pale hallway light slipping through the crack under the door. I was about to go back to sleep when I heard a very faint sound. A whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind passing through the door gap, but then it became clearer. "Open the door." I froze in bed. The whisper came from the hallway outside, very close, as if someone were pressing their lips against the crack of my door. "Open the door." It was a woman's voice. Hoarse, weak, cold, not like a normal person speaking, but like someone who had cried for so long that her throat had dried out, leaving only a rasp. I sat up, my heart pounding. "Who's there?" I asked. The moment I spoke, the hallway outside fell silent. So silent that I could hear my own breathing. I sat there staring at the door for nearly 10 minutes. No footsteps, no knocking, no reply. Eventually, I convinced myself it was probably some student playing a prank and lay back down. But just before I closed my eyes, the voice returned. This time, it came from inside the room, right beside the empty bed. "Why did you answer?" I switched on the light immediately. The bed beside me was still empty. The old sheet lay flat. No one else was in the room. The next morning, I went downstairs to see the manager. I told her about the night before, trying my best to stay calm. After listening, her face turned pale. She asked only one question. "Did you answer it?" I stayed silent. She sighed. "From tonight on, if you hear anything, cover your ears. Don't answer. Don't ask questions. Don't open the door, especially if it calls your name." That sentence sent a chill down my spine. I asked her, "Who is it?" She looked toward the 4th floor for a long time before speaking quietly. "There used to be a female student in that room. She often heard her roommate calling from the hallway at night. One night, she opened the door and went outside. The next morning they found her inside the emergency staircase. The staircase door was still locked, and she was dead inside." I asked how she died. The manager did not answer. That night, I decided not to sleep. I kept the lights on, put on headphones, and blasted music loudly. But around 2 in the morning, the power suddenly went out. The entire 4th floor sank into darkness. My headphones died as well. I sat curled on the bed, gripping my phone tightly. The signal was weak, the internet unstable. Outside, the green emergency light from the hallway seeped through the crack under the door, making the room look submerged underwater. Then the whisper returned. "Nom." I went numb. It called my exact name. "Nom." The voice sounded softer than the night before. It even resembled my mother's voice. Very close, very familiar. "It's Mom, open the door for me." I bit my lip until it bled. My mother was back in my hometown, over 200 kilometers away. There was no way she could be standing outside my dorm room at 2 in the morning. But the voice continued. "Nom, don't you love your mother anymore?" I covered my ears tightly with both hands. Immediately, the The whisper outside disappeared. And then it spoke directly beside my ear. "Don't cover your ears." I screamed and crawled beneath the desk, clutching my head. Outside the room, fingernails began scratching against the door. Slowly, one line at a time. Scratch. 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 The sound was exactly like the claw marks beside the light switch. Then came footsteps. Not just one person. Many people. They walked up and down the fourth-floor hallway, dragging their feet across the damp tiles. Their whispers overlapped, growing thicker and louder. "Come out. Listen. Open the door. Someone's waiting. Come with us." I shut my eyes tightly, barely daring to breathe. Suddenly, the phone in my hand vibrated. The screen lit up, an incoming call. Caller ID. Mom. Relief nearly made me cry. But just as I was about to answer, I remembered. It was 2:17 a.m. My mother never called at that hour. The phone kept ringing. Outside the door, the whisper changed. "Answer the phone, son." I threw the phone onto the bed. The speaker turned on by itself. My mother's voice came through clearly. "Nom, why won't you open the door?" I crawled backward into the corner, trembling violently. At the same time, the doorknob began turning. Slowly. Click. 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 I clearly remembered locking the door. I had even fastened the extra latch. But the knob kept turning, as if someone outside were patiently testing it little by little. Then all sounds stopped. A horrifying silence filled the room. After that, I heard someone sit down on the empty bed. The mattress sank. In the faint green light, I could clearly see an indentation forming on the bed, as if someone invisible were sitting there with their back facing me. Then the old sheet wrinkled. A girl's voice whispered, "Don't look into the hallway." I held my breath. That voice was different from the one outside the door. Weaker, shaking, frightened. "Don't listen when it calls you. It's not someone you know." I did not dare reply. The invisible presence on the bed whispered again. "That year," I answered too. Suddenly, the door slammed violently. Bang! I screamed. The entire door shook. Outside, I heard my mother's voice, the manager's voice, my classmates' voices, and even my own voice. All of them calling my name repeatedly. Nom. 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 The thing on the bed spoke urgently. "Cover your ears. Don't let it know you're still awake." I immediately pressed my hands over my ears and buried my face in my knees. The door kept shaking. The wall kept scratching. The floor vibrated beneath me as if dozens of people were running back and forth in the hallway. Then came a tiny sound. Click. The door opened. I did not look. I swear I did not look. But I felt the freezing air pour into the room. Something stood directly in front of me. It smelled like clothes soaked for too long. Rotten hair. Mud from a drain. It leaned closer. A whisper brushed against my ear. "Just look at me once." I clenched my teeth, tears streaming down my face. My hands pressed against my ears so hard they hurt. But the voice still pushed through my skin and straight into my head. "Look. Listen. Answer. Come with me." I don't know how long it lasted before an alarm clock from somewhere in the dorm rang. Pale morning light slipped through the window. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the floor. The door was still locked, the latch still secured. But on the wall beside the light switch, the old claw marks had grown longer. And beneath them was a new message scratched into the wall with fingernails. "Tonight it will call you for the last time." I packed my things immediately and ran downstairs to ask for another room. The manager saw my face and asked nothing. She silently handed me a key to a room on the second floor. Before I left, she said, "You were lucky. The girl in that room helped you last night. Not everyone gets warned by her." I asked, "Which girl?" She looked at me quietly. "The student who died in the emergency staircase. They found her sitting with her back against the wall, both hands covering her ears. All her fingernails were broken, and next to her was a sentence scratched into the wall." I did not want to hear it, but she said it anyway. Never listen to the whispers in the hallway. After that, I moved out of the dormitory. But the story did not end there. 3 days later, My mother called me and asked why I had phoned her at 2 in the morning that night. I told her I never called. She stayed silent for a long time before saying, "You did," I answered. "It was your voice. You told me to open the door." My blood ran cold. "Did you open it?" I asked. My mother replied, "I thought you had come home, so I opened it." After that call, my mother began hearing whispers outside the hallway of our house every night. And every single time, it called her using my voice. Story 2. The hospital without a fifth floor. When I was 28 years old, I worked as a night security guard for a private hospital on the outskirts of the city. The pay was decent, but very few people wanted the job because the shift lasted from 7 in the evening until 6 in the morning. The real reason people quit was not the night shift. It was the fifth floor. The strange thing was that the hospital did not even have a fifth floor. The building only had 4 above-ground floors and 1 basement. The elevator buttons only showed B1, 2, 3, and 4, but everyone who had worked there for a long time knew that after 2 in the morning, if you stayed alone in the elevator for too long, sometimes it would stop at the 5th floor. A floor that did not exist. I heard about it on my first day. The head security guard, a man named Tam, smoked his cigarette and said, "If the elevator opens on the 5th floor, don't step outside." I laughed. "It's probably just a malfunction." He stared at me for a long moment. The elevator doesn't malfunction. The cameras don't malfunction either. But nobody who stepped out there lasted more than a week afterward. I thought it was just another story to scare the new guy. Until the 13th night. That night, heavy rain battered the city. Only a few patients remained in the inpatient ward. Around 2 in the morning, the electricity in Block C started flickering, so I had to inspect each floor. Hospitals at night have a very different kind of silence. Not complete silence, but a silence layered with the distant beeping of heart monitors, the squeaking wheels of stretchers rolling across tiles, and the soft whining of old air conditioners in the white hallways. I finished checking the 4th floor and took the elevator down to the lobby. I was alone inside. The elevator descended normally. 4, 3, 2. Then the lights flickered. The elevator shook gently. The digital display above the door suddenly showed 5. I frowned. There was no 5th floor button. The elevator doors slid open. An icy gust of air rushed in. Outside was a dark hallway. It looked nothing like the rest of the hospital. Every other floor was brightly lit and spotless, but this place was illuminated only by dim yellow bulbs hanging from the ceiling. The walls were old and stained with water damage. The air smelled of disinfectant mixed with damp mold and something metallic, like old blood. Most importantly, the hallway was very long. So long that the lights could not reach the end. I stood frozen for several seconds. Then the elevator doors began to close. Instinctively, I shoved my arm between them. I don't know why, but at that moment I felt compelled to see what was outside. Just for a second, the doors reopened. I stepped out. The moment my feet touched the hallway floor, I heard the elevator chime behind me. Ding! The doors closed. I spun around. The digital display was gone. There was no elevator anymore. Only a cracked old wall. My heart started pounding wildly. I grabbed my radio. "Hello? Anyone there?" Only static answered. Then a faint woman's voice came through the radio. "Don't speak loudly." I nearly dropped it. The voice continued. "It will hear you." I backed away. The hallway was completely silent. No patient rooms were open. No people. Only the flickering yellow lights. I told myself I needed to find the stairs. After walking a few meters, I noticed something strange. Both sides of the hallway were lined with patient rooms. But instead of room numbers, each door had a name written on it. In red ink. I passed the first room. Tran T. Lean. Underneath were 2 dates. Admission date. Date of death. I swallowed hard. The next room. Nguyen Van Hung. Date of death. The 14th of August 2019. I stopped dead. That was the name of a patient who had died at this hospital. I remembered because just days earlier, his family had caused a huge scene. accusing the hospital of negligence. I started walking faster. But the farther I went, the more familiar the names became. Every one of them belonged to someone who had died in the hospital. Then I noticed a door slightly ajar. Yellow light spilled from inside. And whispers. Many voices talking at once. I tried to convince myself this was some kind of record storage area. But as I approached, the voices became clearer. It's here. The new one. He can hear us. Don't let him leave. I froze. The door slowly opened wider. Inside were dozens of hospital beds. On every bed lay a body, each covered with a white sheet. None of them moved. Yet the whispers continued. From beneath the sheets. Help me. I don't want to die. It's at the end of the hallway. I stepped backward and accidentally kicked something soft. I looked down. A blood-stained surgical mask. Still fresh. At that moment, a voice spoke behind me. Did you die here too? I spun around. A little girl around 10 years old stood in the hallway. Wearing a hospital gown. Her skin was pale white. Her hair soaked as if she had just climbed out of water. She stared at me without blinking. I asked shakily, Who are you? She did not answer. She only pointed toward the far end of the hallway. They're coming. Then I heard wheels. Screech, screech, screech. The sound echoed from deep within the darkness. A stretcher was moving toward us. But nobody was pushing it. The stretcher rolled forward on its own. The sheet covering it bulged as if someone lay underneath. The little girl whispered, Don't let them know you're still alive. I slowly backed away. The stretcher came closer. Screech, screech, screech. Then it stopped in front of me. The white sheet slowly slid down. The person lying on the stretcher was me. Eyes wide open. Skin purple and lifeless. Dark bruises around my neck as if someone had strangled me. I screamed. The corpse on the stretcher opened its mouth. Run! Suddenly, every light in the hallway went out. The whispers exploded everywhere. Hold him. The patient room doors burst open simultaneously. Shadowy figures in hospital gowns stepped out. They walked crookedly, heads hanging low, dragging their feet. Some had half their faces missing. Some had necks bent at impossible angles. Some still had IV needles stuck in their arms. But all of them whispered the same sentence. Stay with us. I turned and ran. The hallway stretched endlessly. I ran until my lungs felt ready to burst. Yet the end never appeared. Behind me, the dragging footsteps multiplied. The whispers brushed against the back of my neck. Don't run. You're dead too? Don't you remember? I nearly collapsed when I finally saw a giant steel door at the far end. Exit. I rushed forward and shoved it. Locked. Behind me, the figures drew closer. Desperately, I pounded the door. Then an icy hand touched my shoulder. I turned. The little girl stood there. She looked at me sadly. No one escapes. I shouted. Please help me. She stayed silent for a moment. Then said, If you hear it call your name, don't answer. The moment she finished speaking, a woman's voice echoed from the far end of the hallway. Very soft. Very close. Min. I froze. It was my wife's voice. Min, where are you? Tears nearly filled my eyes. But the little girl screamed. Don't answer. The hallway began trembling. The shadowy figures stopped moving. My wife's voice echoed again. Min, I found you? I clenched my jaw. Then I heard my son crying. Daddy? I nearly lost my mind. It sounded real. Exactly real. I trembled. Bow. The instant I spoke, the hallway fell silent. Every head behind me slowly lifted and stared at me. The little girl turned pale. It knows you now. The hallway lights flashed back on. At the far end stood a nurse in uniform. Her long hair covered her face. Her neck bent backward unnaturally. Both arms dragged across the floor as if broken. But the most horrifying thing was, the voice coming from her mouth was my wife's. Min, let's go home? Every corpse in the hallway began rushing toward me. I screamed, shut my eyes, and kicked the exit door with all my strength. The door burst open. I fell hard onto the hospital lobby floor. Bright white lights blinded me. A nurse shouted in panic, "Mr. Min." I lay there gasping. Behind me, the elevator display showed 4. No 5th floor. No yellow hallway. No little girl. They brought me into the break room. After hearing my story, the head security guard's face went pale. He asked only one question. "When it called your name, did you answer?" I stayed silent. He cursed under his breath. The next day, I quit my job. A month later, a nurse committed suicide at the hospital. She was found hanging in the supply room on the 4th floor. Before dying, she left behind a voice recording on her phone. Her trembling voice said, "If the elevator opens on the 5th floor, don't step outside, and if you hear your loved ones calling your name, never answer." But the thing that terrified me most happened 3 nights later. Around 2 in the morning, the elevator in my apartment building opened by itself on my floor. No one was inside. The display showed 5. Then from inside the elevator, I heard my son's voice whisper softly, "Daddy, come down here with me." Story 3. The Calling from the Girls' Dormitory. In 2017, I worked as an electrical maintenance worker for a college located in the northern mountains. The school was old, built in the style of communal dormitories from decades ago, with buildings connected by endless hallways. The most terrifying place was the girls' dormitory behind the sports field. A disappearance had once happened there. No body was ever found. Only a pair of slippers placed in the middle of the 3rd floor hallway. I learned about it during my first week on the job. A janitor named Han was mopping the floor when she told me. The girl who disappeared kept saying someone called her name from the hallway every night before she vanished. I asked, "Who called her?" Han looked up at me. She didn't know either. I laughed. Maybe she was just stressed. Han did not smile. 3 days after she disappeared, the girls in her room said they could still hear her walking outside the hallway every night. I did not believe it. Until that evening. Around 11 at night, the electricity in the girls' dormitory went out. I carried my toolbox upstairs to check the main breaker on the 3rd floor. Most students were already asleep. The hallway was lit only by dim red emergency lights. The 3rd floor felt unusually long. Dorm room doors remained shut in silence. Wind blew through the windows at the end of the hall, producing a low howl like someone crying. I walked while shining my flashlight ahead. As I passed room 318, I heard whispering. Very faint. "Don't open the door." I stopped. The sound came from inside the room. I knocked lightly. "Is anyone there?" No answer. I assumed some student was talking in her sleep and kept walking. But the moment I turned around, I heard running footsteps behind me in the hallway. Thud, thud, thud. Very fast. I spun around and aimed my flashlight. Nobody. The hallway was empty. But at the far end, near the dark corner, I saw the shadow of someone disappearing. A girl. Long hair. Wearing a white uniform. I called out, "Hey." No response. I hurried after her. When I reached the corner, I froze. No one was there. Only a pair of women's slippers in the middle of the hallway. One pointed forward. The other pointed backward. As if someone had been running and suddenly vanished. A cold feeling crawled down my spine. At that exact moment, all the lights on the 3rd floor flickered back on. The power had returned. I laughed nervously at myself and entered the electrical room to inspect the breaker. But while crouching down to repair the panel, I heard a girl giggling. "Hey, hey, hey." Very close. Right behind me. I turned instantly. No one. The electrical room door remained slightly open. The hallway outside was empty. But wet footprints had appeared on the tile floor in front of the doorway. One after another. Small. Like the feet of a young woman. The footprints stretched into the room. And stopped directly behind me. My heart began pounding. Slowly, I looked down. Water dripped onto the floor beneath my feet. Drip. 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 I raised the flashlight toward the ceiling. A girl was clinging there. Her long hair covered her face. Her arms and legs twisted like a spider's. Her mouth stretched open unnaturally wide. She was staring at me. And smiling. I screamed and fell backward. The girl instantly crawled across the ceiling at horrifying speed and disappeared through the doorway. Her laughter echoed down the hallway. Hey! 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 I grabbed my flashlight and ran. But the moment I rushed outside, every dormitory room door on the third floor opened at once. Female students stood throughout the hallway. All wearing white pajamas. All with their heads lowered. None of them moved. None spoke. I asked shakily, What are you girls doing?" No one answered. Then simultaneously, they lifted their heads. Their eyes remained shut. But every mouth opened. And together they whispered, "Have you heard it calling yet?" I backed away. One female student stepped forward. Her skin was deathly pale. Her lips purple. She asked, "Have you heard it calling yet?" I was about to say no. But at that moment, a faint female voice echoed from the far end of the hallway. "Sir?" I turned around. At the end of the corridor stood a girl facing away from me. Wearing the school uniform. Long hair reaching her waist. She stood motionless beneath the red emergency light. Then she tilted her head slightly. "Please help me." My throat went dry. Part of my mind screamed for me to run, but another part felt pity for her. I shouted, "What happened to you?" The instant I answered, all the students in the hallway stepped backward simultaneously. As if afraid of something. The girl at the end of the hallway began laughing. Her head slowly twisted backward. A loud crack echoed. Then another. And another. Until her face had completely rotated toward me while her body still faced away. Her eyes were completely black. Her mouth stretched to her ears. "You heard me?" The hallway lights went out instantly. Running footsteps exploded everywhere. Not one person. Many people running around the third floor. The pounding footsteps sounded like an entire crowd of mad people. I waved my flashlight wildly. The beam swept across figures standing against the walls. All female students. All facing the wall. Their shoulders shaking violently. As if crying. Then one by one, they began smashing their heads against the wall. Thunk. 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 The sound echoed throughout the hallway. Blood began running down the walls. Terrified, I ran toward the staircase. But the hallway seemed endless. No matter how far I ran, I could not reach it. The giggling voice returned beside my ear. "Do you want to see me?" I turned around. The girl was crawling along the wall behind me. Her neck twisted backward. Hair dragging behind her. Hands and feet gripping the wall like an insect. She crawled faster and faster. I screamed and threw myself into the nearest room, locking the door behind me. Inside was pitch black. The room smelled damp, mixed with old perfume. I switched on my flashlight. Room 319. The room of the missing student. The walls were covered in writing. Everywhere. It's all over the hallway. It stands outside. It calls my name. Don't answer. Don't open the door. In the corner stood a large mirror covered with a white cloth. I was searching for a way out when I heard knocking. Knock. 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 A soft woman's voice came from outside. "Sir, open the door?" I stayed silent. The knocking became louder. "I'm cold." Then the voice changed into my mother's voice. "Open the door for Mom." My entire body froze. I knew that thing was not my mother. But the voice sounded exactly like her. Even the breathing. Outside, the knocking became frantic. Bang. 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 Open the door. I stumbled backward and accidentally bumped into the covered mirror. The cloth fell away. There was no reflection of me in the mirror. Only the girl standing directly behind me. Right at my back. I spun around. No one there. But inside the mirror, she remained standing. Her mouth curled into a twisted smile. Then she slowly lifted one finger to her lips. Shush. The knocking outside stopped instantly. The room became silent. I thought it was over. Until the girl in the mirror slowly pointed beneath the bed. I looked down. A pair of eyes stared back at me from underneath. Pitch black. No whites. Then a hoarse male voice came from under the bed. Finally, someone came to replace me. A pale hand shot out and grabbed my ankle. I screamed, kicked wildly, and bolted for the door. The door flew open by itself. The hallway outside was completely dark. No students. No head-smashing sounds. Only whispers echoing everywhere. Don't listen. Don't answer. Don't turn around. I ran wildly down the stairs. When I reached the first floor, I collapsed into the lobby. The old night guard saw me and immediately turned pale. He dragged me into the security room and locked the door tightly. I told him everything. He simply smoked in silence. Then he said, "The girl who disappeared was never found." I asked, "What is that thing in the hallway?" He looked toward the third floor. "No one knows, but whoever hears it calling and answers, disappears sooner or later." I quit my job the very next day. But 3 months later, another female student disappeared at that school. People found her slippers in the middle of the third-floor hallway, placed neatly side by side, as if she had stood there and vanished into thin air. That same night, I received a phone call from an unknown number at 2:13 a.m. I answered. There was no human voice on the other end. Only footsteps echoing through a hallway. Then a girl whispered softly, "Do you still remember me?" Story 4. The apartment building where someone walked outside every night. I moved into an Phu apartment building at the end of 2021. After my divorce. It was an old building hidden deep inside a narrow alley near the bus station. The rent was unbelievably cheap for the area. So cheap that I thought I had gotten lucky. Until I found out someone had died in apartment 1208 before me. The previous tenant had hanged himself in the living room. He left no suicide note. People said that for months before his death, he constantly complained to management that every night someone walked back and forth outside the hallway on the 12th floor. The problem was, that floor only had 3 apartments. And the other 2 had been abandoned for years. I learned this from the old woman who ran the convenience stall downstairs. While calculating the price of my instant noodles, she suddenly asked, "You're staying in 1208, aren't you?" I nodded. She immediately fell silent for a few seconds before quietly saying, "If you hear anything in the hallway at night, don't open the door." I laughed. "Are there a lot of thieves here?" She stared at me strangely. "The thing walking outside isn't human." I assumed she was just superstitious and ignored it. The first few days in the apartment were normal enough. During the day, the building was noisy with children running through hallways, televisions blaring, and neighbors arguing downstairs. But after 11 at night, everything became silent. The 12th floor turned terrifyingly quiet. No elevator sounds. No footsteps. No voices. As if the entire floor had been abandoned. On the 5th night, I started hearing it. Around 1:47 a.m. Step. 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 Footsteps echoed through the hallway outside. Very slow. Like someone dragging slippers across the tile floor. At first, I assumed a neighbor had come home late and ignored it. But then I realized the footsteps never stopped. They kept pacing back and forth. From one end of the hallway to the other. Step. 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 For nearly an hour. I stared at the ceiling, trying to sleep. Then the footsteps stopped directly outside my apartment. Silence. A very long silence. Then, knock. 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 3 very soft knocks. I sat upright instantly. "Who is it?" I asked. No answer. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. The motion sensor light outside flickered continuously. No one stood there. I assumed someone was playing a prank and returned to bed. But the moment I lay down again, the knocking returned. Knock. 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 This time right beside my ear. as if it came from inside the apartment. I turned on the light immediately. The room was empty, but the bathroom door was slightly open. I clearly remembered closing it before sleeping. From the dark crack of the doorway came the sound of dripping water. Drip, drip, drip. I grabbed a mop handle and slowly approached. The moment my hand touched the doorknob, a whisper came from inside. Open it. A cold chill shot through my body. A man's voice, hoarse and weak. I stepped back immediately. Just then my phone vibrated. A text message from an unknown number. Don't open the bathroom door. My heart nearly stopped. I texted back. Who are you? No reply. The whisper from the bathroom continued. I'm cold. Let me out. My trembling hands tried calling building security. No signal. Every bar disappeared. Then the living room lights went out. The entire apartment sank into darkness. Only the pale green light from the hallway seeped beneath the front door. And the dripping inside the bathroom became faster. Drip, 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 drip. As if someone inside kept letting water fall onto the floor. I did not dare move. Then came laughter. Very faint. From inside the bathroom. KHH. 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 Like someone laughing with a crushed throat. After that, the bathroom door slowly creaked open. Creak. A rotten stench poured out. The smell of sewage mixed with death. I pointed my phone flashlight inside. Nobody. But the bathroom mirror was covered with words written in water. You saw me. I stumbled backward into the table. At that exact moment, footsteps began running outside in the hallway. Bang. 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 Someone was sprinting at full speed outside my door. Then suddenly stopping. A terrified woman screamed. Open the door. Please open it. I froze. It was the voice of the woman from the lower floor whom I had once met in the elevator. She continued sobbing hysterically. It's chasing me. Open up. I approached the door. But the moment my hand touched the lock, another message appeared on my phone. If you want to live, don't open it. I stood frozen. Outside, the woman cried desperately. Please. Please. Don't leave me out here. Then suddenly she stopped. A long silence followed. After that, her voice changed. Lower. Hoarser. Open the door. Slowly, I looked through the peephole. There was no woman outside. Only a tall, thin man standing with his back facing me. His neck bent unnaturally to one side. His bare feet were black as if soaked in water for days. He stood completely still. Then his head slowly rotated backward. Not his body. Only his head. White eyes. A swollen purple tongue hanging from his mouth. It was the face of the man who had hanged himself. I collapsed backward onto the floor. Outside, scratching began. Scratch. 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 His fingernails scraped against the metal door. Open the door. The whisper grew closer and closer. Then from behind me, inside the bathroom, the same voice whispered, Don't open. I turned around. More words had appeared on the bathroom mirror. It can't come in unless you open the door. My whole body trembled. Was the thing inside the bathroom helping me? The scratching outside became more violent. The front door shook heavily. Bang. 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 The man's voice outside slowly changed into my own voice. Exactly my voice. Open the door. It's me. I'm trapped outside. I sat curled in the corner holding my head. The apartment lights flickered endlessly. Each time the light flashed, I saw a figure standing behind me in the bathroom mirror. A man with a stretched neck. Bulging eyes. Purple tongue hanging out. But every time I turned around, nothing was there. Around 2 in the morning, the pounding outside suddenly stopped. Silence. Then I heard the elevator open. Ding. The footsteps outside slowly moved away. Step. 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 Fading into the distance. I thought it was over. Until my phone screen lit up. One final message from the unknown number. It went downstairs. I immediately replied, "Who are you?" 3 minutes later, a response came. "The man who lived in 1208 before you." The blood in my body turned cold. I tried calling the number. It did not exist. The next morning, I went downstairs and asked the old security guard about the man who had died in apartment 1208. The guard's face turned pale after hearing my story. He pulled me aside near the smoking area and quietly said, "Before hanging himself, that man kept claiming someone walked through the hallway every night. We thought he had gone insane. Until the night he died." I asked, "What happened that night?" The guard swallowed hard. The hallway camera recorded him opening his apartment door at exactly 2:13 a.m. and standing there talking to someone outside for almost 10 minutes. But the camera never captured the other person. A chill spread through my entire body. And then? The guard looked at me. Then he hanged himself right in front of his own door. I moved out that same day. But 1 week later, while staying in my new apartment, I woke up in the middle of the night because of footsteps outside the hallway. Step, step, step. The slow dragging sound of slippers across tile. Then they stopped directly outside my door. And a hoarse whisper came from the other side. "Finally, I found you." Story 5. The hotel at the end of the coastal road. I worked as a long-distance driver for nearly 10 years, so I had slept in all kinds of cheap motels and roadside hotels. But the place that haunted me the most was Hai Van Hotel on a coastal road in central Vietnam. It was the kind of old hotel meant for travelers passing through. 3 floors. Peeling paint. A neon sign that flickered constantly. Even during the day, it looked gloomy. At night, it resembled a rotting corpse lying beside the sea. I arrived there during a stormy night. It was nearly midnight, and the highway was flooded, forcing me to stop and rest. Every nearby motel was full except Hai Van Hotel, which still had its lights on. The manager was a thin old man around 60 years old. When he handed me the key to room 303, he warned me, "If you hear someone calling outside the hallway at midnight, don't open the door." I laughed. "Are there thieves around here?" The old man stared at me for several seconds. "A few people opened the door before. None of them ever came back downstairs." I thought he was trying to scare customers and asked no more questions. Room 303 was located at the end of the third-floor hallway, right beside the staircase leading to the rooftop, chained shut with heavy locks. The third-floor hallway was extremely long, lit only by dim yellow lights. Sea wind howled through the cracks in the windows, creating an eerie whistling sound. As I passed room 307, I noticed the door had been nailed shut with old wooden boards. Several faded yellow talismans were attached to it. I asked the old man, "Is that room broken?" He did not answer. He simply hurried downstairs. For the first time, I began feeling uneasy. But I was exhausted, so I went to sleep anyway. Around 2:11 a.m., I woke up because of a dragging sound in the hallway. Scrape, scrape, scrape. It sounded like someone dragging a heavy sack across the floor. The sound stopped directly outside my room. Silence. Then a woman whispered, "Sir." I opened my eyes and looked at the clock. 2:13 a.m. The woman's voice came again. "Please help me." I sat up. Her voice sounded weak, like someone injured. "I'm in pain." I walked toward the door. But just as my hand reached for the lock, I remembered the old man's warning. "Don't open the door." I looked through the peephole. The hallway was dim. A woman in a white dress stood outside my room with her back facing me. Her long hair was soaking wet. Water dripped steadily onto the floor. I knocked lightly on the door. "What do you need?" The woman did not answer. Then she slowly tilted her head sideways. Her voice remained soft. "I can't come in." A freezing sensation ran down my spine. I stepped backward. Suddenly, the woman began smashing her head against the door. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Each hit became harder. The entire door shook violently. "Let me in." Her voice twisted into something hoarse and inhuman, like someone being strangled. Terrified, I locked the extra latch. Outside, the head banging continued. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Then it abruptly stopped. Silence. I held my breath. A moment later, I heard dragging footsteps moving away. Scrape, scrape, scrape. I sighed in relief. But less than 10 seconds later, water started running inside the bathroom. I froze. I clearly remembered turning off the faucet before sleeping. The sound of water grew louder. Rush, rush, as if someone had fully opened the shower. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The bathroom door was slightly open. The beam illuminated wet tiles covered in seawater and sand. A strong fishy odor filled the air. Slowly, I pushed the door wider. Creak. Inside the bathtub was hair. Long strands of black hair floating in the water. The bathtub kept filling although the shower was not running. Then beneath the floating hair, a woman's face slowly surfaced. Pale skin. Purple lips. Eyes wide open. I screamed and stumbled backward. The woman inside the bathtub smiled faintly. Her mouth opened. Seawater poured out along with a whisper. "You saw me?" The room lights suddenly died. The entire room plunged into darkness. Water began flowing everywhere. From the ceiling. From under the bed. From inside the walls. As if the entire room were sinking into the ocean. I wildly swept my flashlight around. Wet footprints appeared across the floor, leading from the bathroom toward the bed, then stopping right beside it. After that, I heard someone lie down behind me. The mattress sank clearly. I did not dare turn around. A woman whispered beside my ear. That night, he didn't open the door either. An icy breath brushed against my neck. But I still got in. I bolted toward the room door, unlocked it, and ran into the hallway. The third-floor hallway was pitch black. Not a single yellow light remained. Only the distant roar of ocean waves. And whispers surrounding me. "Stay. Stay with me. Don't go downstairs." I ran toward the staircase. But when I passed room 307, I heard knocking from inside. Knock. 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 I stopped. The room was nailed shut. No one could possibly be inside. Then a man's voice came through the wooden boards. "Help me." I felt ice crawl through my veins. "Please, she won't let me leave." Fingernails scratched from inside the room. Scratch. 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 I'm still alive. At that moment, a woman's laughter echoed from the far end of the hallway. "Hey. Hey. Hey." I turned around. The woman in the white dress stood at the end of the corridor. This time her hair had parted to both sides. Her face was swollen like a corpse that had floated in seawater for days. Skin peeling away. White eyes staring blankly. But the most horrifying thing was, her mouth had been sewn shut with black thread. Each stitch tightly sealed her lips. She tilted her head at me. Then the threads began snapping one by one. Snap. 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 Her mouth slowly opened far wider than humanly possible. Seawater and seaweed poured from inside. The man in room 307 suddenly screamed. "Run!" Instantly, every door on the third floor burst open. Bang! 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 Wet figures stepped into the hallway. Men. Women. Even children. Their skin was pale and bloated as if soaked underwater for too long. Their eyes remained wide open. Seawater dripped continuously from their hair. All of them turned toward me. Then together they whispered, "Come into the sea with us." The hallway lights flickered violently. Each time the light flashed, the drowned figures stood closer. I turned and ran desperately downstairs. But the staircase no longer led downward. It stretched endlessly into darkness. Wet footsteps followed behind me. Slap. 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 As if dozens of soaked bodies were crawling after me. In panic, I shoved open the nearest door. The rooftop. Sea wind nearly knocked me over. Rain blasted sideways. At the center of the rooftop was a massive pool of water. No. Not water. Black seawater moving unnaturally. Heads floated on its surface. Dozens of them, all staring directly at me. Then from the water, the woman in white slowly emerged. Her body dripped continuously. Each step produced the cracking sound of breaking bones. She looked at me. "Do you know why they died?" I backed toward the rooftop edge. She continued. "Because that night, nobody opened the door for me." Then every floating head in the water began laughing. Their laughter echoed across the rooftop. I looked around desperately. Suddenly, I saw the old hotel manager standing near the rooftop door. He screamed, "Close your eyes." I shut them immediately. At once, a horrifying scream exploded right beside my face. Freezing. Piercing. Like dozens of drowning people screaming together. Then everything went silent. When I opened my eyes, dawn was approaching. I was lying in the lobby on the first floor. The old manager sat nearby smoking. He stared at me for a long moment before saying, "You were lucky. She almost dragged you down with her." My voice trembled. "What is she?" The old man stayed silent. Then he explained that 13 years earlier, a passenger bus had crashed into the sea during a storm. Many bodies were never recovered. One young woman survived and crawled to Highvan Hotel seeking help at midnight. But no one opened the door for her. The next morning, her body washed ashore. Since then, every time heavy rain falls, knocking can be heard along the third-floor hallway. I left the hotel as soon as daylight came. Before leaving, I looked up at the third floor one final time. Room 307 remained nailed shut. But from behind the wooden boards, I could clearly hear a whisper. "Next time, please open the door."
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.